Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Extra Innings Podcast, where today I will be continuing the series that I've been doing for the past two episodes, where I go through all 30 teams in the MLB and review their 2020 offseason moves and decide whether they improve their team or not, and also grade their 2020 offseason. So today, continuing in the alphabetical order that we're in, we're doing the Baltimore Orioles, and this one is not going to be a long episode because in all reality, the Baltimore Orioles did not do a lot when they needed to do a lot. So we'll go over a couple small things they did, but first, let's give a recap on 2019. They went 54 and 108. They were fifth in the AL East. They had a 25 and 56 home record and a 29 and 52 road record. The Orioles, one of the worst teams in baseball. There's no real way around that. They have some good pieces. They have a couple guys in the pipeline that are coming up through the minors. But as of right now, this ball club is just not there to contend even as a third place team in the AL East. Forget about a first place team and forget about a wild card. Their time is not now. Their time is not in the near future either. They have a long rebuild coming, and they've been in it for a while. And, it's tough to be an Orioles fan, I'm sure. Having to watch mediocre baseball teams go out on the field every single day. But then again, they're all baseball players. They all made the MLB, so who am I to talk and say that they're mediocre? But we're going to go over what they did in the 2020 offseason. Not a lot of moves. The first one is a departure, Mark Trumbo leaving for free agency. And at first when I saw this, I thought, wow, they lost the power bat in Trumbo, but boy was I wrong. I mean, in 2019, he really didn't play. He only had 29 at-bats. He hit 172 with 3 RBIs, 1 hit, a 226 on base. You can't really judge it because he only played 12 games. But the reason I think this is actually a good move, just letting him go. He's entering his age 34 season. You don't know his contributions to the team. He didn't have a great 2018 either. He had a decent 2017. And 2016 was when he broke out, but that's a long time ago. 2016 is 4 seasons ago. It was when he was in his prime at 29 years old. Now he's entering his 34th season. I think they made the right move here to let him go. And I think this is one of maybe 2 good moves that they did the whole offseason, in my opinion. The second one, they re-signed Michael Givens to a 1-year deal to avoid arbitration. And I mean, I know why I understand why they brought him back. That bullpen is hurting, and they just needed a guy. They needed to bring back a familiar face. They brought back Givens, who had an awful 2019, pitching to a 4.57 ERA in 63 innings. He gave up 13 home runs, which is very unlike him. He doesn't really give up a lot of home runs, but in 2019, pitches just hung over the plate. Issued a lot of walks, 26 walks. Struck out 86, which he is known as. He is known as that strikeout pitcher. And he has 12.3 strikeouts per 9. But it didn't click for him. Nothing clicked. He had a 1.19 whip, which is actually really good, but a 4.50 FIP, which is very high. It just didn't seem to click for him. Of course, he's playing in Camden, which is a very, very, very hitter-friendly ballpark. And I feel bad for pitchers who have to go there and pitch there. But as a reliever, your ERA should not be a 4.57. If you look at his underlying stats, he had a decent season with 11 saves, but it's just not a Michael Givens season. But it makes sense to bring him back. Hopefully he can channel his 2018 and 2017 where he pitched really phenomenal. And, he's only entering his age 30 season. He still has a lot to him. And I think it's a good signing. It's cheap. He's not making a lot of money. He made $2.15 million last year, making around that this year. I see why they brought him back, and it makes sense. He had a .7 WAR last year. It's tough pitching where he's pitching, and he's doing an okay job, so I do like that signing as well, just to bring him back to avoid that arbitration. They re-signed Hanser Alberto to be their second baseman. Nothing really to say on this. They needed a second baseman. They didn't sign one in free agency. They didn't trade for one. Hanser Alberto is the best option, and he will be their starting second baseman whenever the 2020 season comes rolling around. They did re-sign Trey Mancini to a one-year deal to avoid arbitration, and this is a fantastic deal. I'll tell you what Trey Mancini hit in 2019. He hit 291 with 35 home runs, 97 RBIs, 106 runs, a 3.5 WAR, a 364 on base, a 535 slugging, and an 899 OPS with a 135 OPS plus. That is fantastic numbers coming from, a very young up and coming. He's only entering his age 28 season. He had a good 2018. His power numbers just keep climbing and climbing. His production gets better. His average gets better. He hits for contact and power. I think the Orioles really have a future All-Star on their hands. As long as he can stay healthy, prayers up to Trey Mancini. No one really knows why he underwent a medical procedure. Hopefully he's back by the time 2020 happens. It'd be a shame for him to miss this season, but of course, health comes before anything. So if there is something he's dealing with because the injuries or the medical condition is believed to not be sports related, so hopefully he undergoes the proper treatment and gets back on that field. But of course, great signing by the Orioles just to bring Trey Mancini back. A little extra to say on Hanser Alberto signing. I don't love it. He's a below average third baseman, doesn't really produce, but I understand the signing. Second baseman, my bad. I understand the signing. That's just where he's going to be. You're familiar with him. You're familiar with what he does. And he's going to bring you pretty much a production of a average to slightly below average second baseman. So it is what it is. Their big free agency signing was Jose Iglesias. Jose Iglesias had a very under the radar 2019. He had a 288 batting average with a 318 on base percentage, a 407 slugging, a 724 OPS, and an 85 OPS plus. 11 home runs, 59 RBIs, a 1.4 WAR. He's not known for his hitting. He has good defense. He's a average to above average shortstop. He will be their starting shortstop. I guarantee you that. He had a okay 2018, but what he does give you is consistency. He rarely misses games. He plays anywhere from 140 to 150 games per season. He was an all-star in Detroit back in 2015. Now he's entering his age 30 season. Still considered in your prime. He can play third base if they need him to. And, it's a good signing. It's one that flew under the radar. Didn't really do much. It's not gonna bring them 10 extra wins to their team. They're still gonna be a bottom of the pack team, a bottom 5 team in baseball for sure. Unless they surprise everybody and all their players start hitting the ball, which is what they weren't doing last year. Their pitching comes alive, which they weren't doing last year. So I know this episode is short, so what I'm going to do is go through their starting lineup and see where they can improve and if it got better from last year. So the projected catcher is Pedro Severino or Chance Sisco. I believe it should be Chance Sisco. I believe that he should be the catcher. I know they have Adley Rutschman, but Adley could play first base, and I truly believe that. So I would personally put Chance Sisco behind that plate. Let him get those reps in. Let him evolve into a player that people know he can be. He was one of the best catchers in the minor leagues. He's struggling, here and there in the majors, but I do believe that he can put it together and become a solid, serviceable catcher in the MLB. First base, they have Chris Davis. I don't believe he should start. I really don't. I believe that Ryan Mountcastle, who's their number 4 ranked prospect, should just come up from AAA and just start. Chris Davis, to me, I think he's past his prime. I think he's past his, not playing days, but definitely fielding days. I think if you're going to play him, he needs to be a DH. I just can't picture Chris Davis in the NL. Chris Davis has done a lot of things, a lot of home runs. He had a couple really great seasons, but I just don't see him really bouncing back from a rough season the past couple years. And I would start Mountcastle. I know depending on how contracts work, because you do want Mountcastle to get that extra year of control. The Orioles want that before he has to go to arbitration. So I understand why they might hold him back for I think it's around 18 games. which is close to around 4 weeks, so 3 to 4 weeks, which is a month. And Trey obviously will get first base. Trey Mancini will get first base. Reps when he comes back healthy. But first of all, he has to get his health, in order before he comes back, and that's the number one priority. Second base, you have Anser Alberto. Losing Jonathan Villar. Losing Jonathan Villar was hard. I forgot to mention that. Jonathan Villar is a big loss for them. Jonathan Villar had a really good season last year. But, they really don't. Now that he's gone, he went to Miami. Alberto has his position locked up, and he's just going to continue to do that unless he plays really awful and they bring up someone from the minors. But there's nobody on that roster to compete with him at this point. Shortstop, it's a lock to Jose Iglesias, and he's going to have that. Nothing really to talk about that. It's a serviceable shortstop, and I'm sure he's happy in his position. Third base, you have Real Ruiz. He's a really good defensive third baseman. At the end of 2019, he put together a really solid offensive season. But in the beginning of 2019, not great. But if he gets his regular at-bats, which he should, because he will, in my opinion, be the starting third baseman, I don't think Dustin Herrera gets it. I think Dustin will be on the bench or in the minors. I think Ruiz becomes a decent to average shortstop in this league. But what really shines with him is his defense. Designated hitter, DH Renato Nunez, and I'm getting these projected lineups from MLB.com. Nunez hit 31 home runs and 90 RBIs in 2019. You're gonna have to share his spots with either Mountcastle, Mancini, or Chris Davis. So I don't know how many at bats Nunez is gonna get, but it's a solid DH utility. They have Andrew Velazquez and Pat Valleca. Okay, nothing great there, but it's the Orioles. So outfield, you have Anthony Santander, you have Austin Hayes, Dwight Smith Jr., and Cedric Mullins. And you have Trey Mancini. The only one I'm really a fan of is Austin Hayes. I don't think Santander is the answer. I think Austin Hayes is honestly very impressive. He makes some plays out there. He hits the ball relatively well. He had a rough stretch here and there, but he sees the ball relatively well. Sometimes his hard contact doesn't go to a hit, doesn't result in a hit, but he is definitely, in my opinion, the best outfielder out of that bunch, other than Trey Mancini, who you can classify as a first baseman, but I know he plays a lot of outfield. Starting pitching, you have John Means, Alex Cobb, Asher Wojciechowski, Wade LeBlanc, and Cole Stewart. Cole Stewart, they picked up in free agency. Not a big pickup. John Means had a decent 2019. Alex Cobb was hurt the whole 2019. Wade LeBlanc, I don't know. Not great. And Cole Stewart, it's just a bottom. It's a bottom 10 rotation in the league. I do have faith in John Means, but is he a number one? Not in my opinion. And I just don't think this rotation can carry. It's not like their rotation is so good that it can carry their lackluster offense. They have a terrible offense, very lackluster, and they have a lackluster pitching staff. Projected relievers are Michael Givens, Hunter Harvey, Sean Armstrong, Miguel Castro, Richard Bleer, Paul Fry, Tanner Scott, and Cody Carroll. No one knows who these guys are except Michael Givens. Miguel Castro, Hunter Harvey, maybe. First of all, this bullpen rarely stays healthy. It says here that the O's cycled through 31 relievers in 2019. The only one that you can really have hope for is Hunter Harvey. Throws hard, has a problem with hitting his spots, but he had a decent year. But again, this bullpen is not a top even top 15 bullpen in baseball. So, in my opinion, I just think they're just not they're just not well-rounded enough. Like, it's not like their pitching can carry one part or their hitting can carry their lackluster pitching. It's just a really below-average team in general, and I hate hating on a baseball team because they are an MLB team. They have guys, they consist of guys who are a top 1% of players in the world who can compete at this level, but when you're comparing these players to different players in the league, I just think they're really one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. So that's my personal opinion on it. To grade the Baltimore Orioles, I give them a C- or a D+. They just didn't answer any of their questions. They didn't fulfill any of their real needs. Like, shortstop wasn't a need because unless you let Jonathan VR go, which you did, but if you didn't, then shortstop wasn't a need going into this offseason. You just had to re-sign VR, which you didn't do that. Pitching was a need, and you didn't fulfill that need. Relief pitchers were a need, and you didn't fulfill it. Now with Trey Mancini here, I don't know what's going to happen with this team. So I'm going to give him a C- or a D+. My projected record for them in 2020, let's say on a 162 game scale, I personally think they got worse. So I'm going to do 50 and 112. I'm going to give them a 4-win decrease. I just think they got worse. I don't think they got better. Unless that home record really scares me. You know, when you lose that many games at your home field, it puts a dent in your confidence. And I just think that, you know, you can't really gain that back, especially without bringing in a new set of faces in that locker room. So 50 and 112 is my guess for them. Still 5th in the AL East. Again, a C- or a D+. And that is my take on the Orioles 2020 offseason review. Thank you guys so much for taking your time out of your days to listen to me. If you enjoyed what you watched, please like, comment, and subscribe. Again, all feedback is very, very much appreciated, and it's welcomed. I take positive and negative because I view negative as constructive. I view that even when someone leaves a negative comment, in a way they are trying to help me become a better YouTuber, podcaster, whatever you want to call it. So I appreciate all you guys for taking your time. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.